Now let's take a look at the other assessment tool we have called assessments. We're going to add our new assessment right here. We're going to select Add Assessment. We're prompted with a similar dialog box here. Go ahead and give it an assessment name, the due date, the point total. So I'm going to have 5 questions, or maybe 3 questions in this assessment. Each question is worth 1 point, therefore my total points is 3 points. Again, you can change this again after you make your quiz. If you make your assessment, you can go back and change this by editing the assessment so that the number of questions and point totals for the questions match what point total you put here. It defaults to disabled, so although it might be published and viewable, it's not going to be able to be interacted with. Students cannot make submissions. I would need to, again, change that to enable. I'm going to do that now. One of the considerations for this is that you can publish an assessment on the day that students are going to take it, but let's say period 3 comes in at 10 o'clock. You may have to manually go in and enable this quiz at 10 o'clock so students can have access to it. Another option is to have it enabled completely, but unpublish it, and then publish it at the beginning of the period. So a couple things to think about on how you want this to be visible and accessible to your students. You can make a password for this. So let's say the password is Schoology. You can give it a category, factor, sync to sys, point totals are here, everything else is good to go, individually assigned to everybody. Again, you can use grading groups to assign different tests to different groups of students or individual students. We're going to keep it published for now, and we can't copy to courses until the assessment is fully completed. We're going to go ahead and create our assessment now. So here are test instructions listed on the setup page. There's lots of assessment settings that are here. It looks a little different than tests and quizzes. Again, this is the format that we believe Schoology is going to be moving to. We believe that tests and quizzes will be removed, but that also some of the functionality of tests and quizzes will be absorbed into this assessment feature as well. So look at your assessment settings. We have time limit, random ordering, possible points for each question during the attempt. So students will see it's worth 1 point or 2 points or 3 points as they're taking it. And then you want to come through and take a look at all of these options that you have here. Some of these may be appropriate for some of your students, and some of them may not be appropriate, depending upon the particular students that are taking this, but also the class, but also what objectives you're getting towards in your assessment. And these are the student settings. So allow students to view results after an attempt is submitted. So you can say no or yes. If you put no, then what that means is you will manually release the scores to the students at your discretion. If we put yes, again, different options. That means that as soon as it's submitted, if they're automatically graded, like multiple choice, true, false, and these types of questions, then the students will be able to see it once Schoology processes their grade. And again, we can choose yes or yes with correct answers for each question. Number of attempts they can submit, you can change it 1 all the way up to 20, just like quizzes. We'll go ahead and save our setup. Now we'll go to our questions. Notice over here we have about 17 and 19 question types that we have here. We have multiple choice, true, false, matching, ordering, fill in the blank, and then lots of different other types that the tests and quizzes did not have. And one of the things we encourage you to do is play around with what some of these are. I mean, some of these might be great for the different types of courses that everybody teaches. Highlighting a text, highlighting an image. Maybe it's a visual performing arts course, and they're supposed to be highlighting techniques within an image. Maybe there's a number line, there's graphing, there's charts. So the assessment tool has much more question types that is much more relevant for a cross-disciplinary approach here. So we have math ideas, we have VAPA ideas, PE with video, and then of course we have all of these standard questions that go here. And so really thinking about how your students want to interact with this quiz, what different types of questions you can make to really elicit the type of responses you're looking for in your students, offers much more robust system here in the assessment tool than compared to the test quiz tool. So I'm going to add a multiple choice question. It's going to load here. If nothing happens, it'll load properly here. Question set up. So I'm going to type question here. And again, we can format it however we like. And these are our assessment options here. If you want to remove an option, you can click X. If you want to add another option, click the plus icon. Distractor rationale means if they select the wrong answer that's a distractor, then what you can do is type in a comment and they'll see this text description for a rationale of why it is wrong or whatever you type in there. Okay, so let's go to correct answer setup. Correct answer, what's the correct answer for this multiple choice? We need to let it know. We can say the correct answer is going to be yes. We can also have alternate correct answers. So maybe yes is correct, but also maybe it's correct. We're going to stick with one for now, but that's what that plus button does. We can have shuffle options here. Layout is standard. It's block, radio under button, so you can change those, and this is the view for the student. And then these are notes, and again, you can add objectives to each question as well. And if you want to preview what it looks like for the students, you can click Preview Question. So this is what the students will see on their page. I, as the teacher, have the option to show my answers. So there's my answer is maybe. I can go back to edit it. And I did correct it. There it is, yes. Okay. When you're ready to save it, go ahead and click Save. And there's my question type. If I want to add another type of question, I can certainly do that. If I had a short answer question here, if you're looking for students to have extended responses, here would be your instructions or question and prompt. Text formatting options available for students here when they type in the box to give you their answer. The word limit, you can make it visible to students or not. Allow submissions over the word limit. The word limit is listed here. Show the word count to students. And you can add objectives that can be aligned to the short answer. And additionally, you can align it to a rubric. So if this is an argumentative essay, maybe I have an argumentative rubric here. And then my objectives are automatically populated because they're attached to this rubric here. And again, we can show this to students. Probably a good idea if they're having to align their writing with the expectations from the teacher. And let's go ahead and click Save. So there's our two questions. I can drag and drop them around and change the order easily if I'd like to. 2 questions, 2 points. I can change the point value here of each question if I want to. And then to delete a question, I can delete it and then I can copy it as well. So we really encourage you to spend some time and go through some of these questions as you develop them. You'll have a chance to take an assessment as part of the apply a little later in this lesson. Now that we have our questions completed, let's do one last tally of our point totals so that we make sure that the point totals listed here match with the question itself, but also add up to the total point totals of our assessment here. We see that we have 2 questions and we have 2 points total. Let's go into our questions though. Because number 2 is a short answer question, and I applied a rubric to it, my rubric is worth 15 points. So if I look at my rubric, I see that the rubric, is worth a total of 20 points. But I only said that my question was worth 1 point. So we may want to go back and we're going to change the total points for this question to 20 points to match the rubric. And to do that, we're going to put 20 there because the rubric is worth 20 points. If we don't put 20 and we leave it as 1, whatever percentage I get out of 20 on the rubric, it'll apply it here. So if I get a 15 out of 20, if I'm a student, if I get a 15 out of 20, which is a 75%, and I change this to 1, it's going to give me 0.75 out of 1 point. So it'll make that proper conversion for you. Now that we have our separate point totals, we see that the total points is now 21 points. So we want to make sure by going to Actions and Edit that the assessment itself is worth the same amount of points. Let's go ahead and click Save Changes. So we have our assessment is worth 21 points. Question 1 is 1 point. Question 2 is 20 points because the rubric is out of 20 points for 21 point total. At this point, once we're finished, we can copy to other courses if we'd like. We can delete it, we can re-edit it, or at this point, we can also save it to resources.